Hi students, today we will discuss a new poetry written by Edgar Allan Poe, an American writer and a critic. Edgar Allan Poe, January 19th, 1809, October 7, 1849, was an American writer, poet, critic, and editor. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, he was orphaned at the age of 3 and raised in foster care by John and Frances Ellen in Richmond, Virginia. He abandoned his college education due to financial constraints and joined the army before he realized that his heart was in writing. His first collection of poems, Tamerlane and Other Poems, was published in 1827, and the second in 1829 titled Al-Araf, Tamerlane and Minor Poems. He became an editor, also started writing short stories. He is best known for his tales of mystery and the macabre which gave birth to the genre of modern detective fiction. Many of his works, The Fall of Usher, The Tell-Tale Heart, The Murder in Rue Morgue, The Raven, became literary classics and established him as a central figure of Romanticism in American literature. Eldorado was first published in April 1849. So now I am reading from page number 137, the poem Gaily bedight a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this night so bold, and over his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like Eldorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of Eldorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for Eldorado. Now I will give you a summary of the poem. Here in the poem, there is a knight. The knight had set out on a journey in search of a place called Eldorado. Eldorado means it is a place, it is a symbolic place. Okay, in first stanza, the knight is brave and dressed splendidly. The man that he is very brave and dressed splendidly. In stanza 2, he is old though still bold. He became old in search of the place Eldorado. He becomes old but still he is bold enough. In stanza 3, his strength has failed him and he is dead or dying. In the third stanza, we can see the same man. He is in a dying position. Again, he is confronting his own shadow of death. That may be a ghost of himself or his own consciousness. And here the word long in the line, had journeyed long in stanza 1, tells us that the knight must have travelled a great distance. So the knight, he had travelled a long distance in search of Eldorado. The knight did not find Eldorado. So there's a question here whether this man is finding, he is searching in search and whether he is finding the place Eldorado. The answer may be the knight did not find Eldorado, the place he was searching for. We come to know this in stanza 2 from the words no spot of ground or that looked like Eldorado. The knight felt a shadow over his heart when he found no spot of ground that looked like Eldorado. So at last he is finding a shadow, a black shadow of a man. Okay, that I told you that may be the spirit of his own soul. In other words, he felt despair when he found no sign of what he was looking for. So this man is getting disappointed. Okay, and he is having despair, and when he found no sign of the Eldorado is seen. The knight met the pilgrim shadow when he was old and his strength heart started failing him. That the knight is dying or dead can be inferred here from the third stanza. This can be done by interpreting the events in the stanza. The knight had grown old and his strength had started failing him when he met the pilgrim shadow. Since the pilgrim shadow is an allusion to the spirit of death, it can be inferred that the knight himself is either dying and the shadow that he is speaking to his own ghost or spirit, or he is dead. And when I speak about the poetic devices, and we can see here the poet repeats the words shadow and Eldorado in every stanza in the poem. The third line of each stanza ends with shadow. The last line of each stanza ends with Eldorado. The meaning of the word shadow, however, changes with each use. The first time it means night, the second time it implies gloom or despair, the third time it is used for a ghost or an apparition, and the fourth time it refers to spirits of the dead. The repeated use of Eldorado emphasizes the knight's urge to find what he desires. At the same time, with each repeated use, it reveals the despair he feels at not being able to do so. So here in the first stanza, the sound has been repeated in gallant, shadow, and had and Eldorado. So sound is repeated here in the first stanza. And in the second stanza, the long O sound has been repeated in old, so, bold, over, shadow, and no, and Eldorado. So O sound is being repeated. And in the third stanza of the poem, when the knight comes across a pilgrim shadow, he starts talking to the shadow. In the first stanza, the shadow talks to the knight. By giving the shadow the human quality of listening and talking, the poet has made use of personification. And here we can see the repetition of G sound in gaily, gallant, and the sound S is repeated in singing, song, and search, and H sound is repeated in heart, his heart, and F sound in fell and found, I, and also L sound in looked and like, M sound in mountains and moon, R in right and replied are examples of alliteration in the poem. So alliteration means the repetition of the consonant sound. So we can see here repetitions, alliterations, and personifications. Thank you. I hope that you have understood the poetry Eldorado, and I will come with the video of the same poetry. Thank you.